now. So thank you for joining us today to talk about our creativity and culture report. This one has been a very exciting one, being the 12th in a 12 report series. So we've got a really exciting agenda, which I'll just run you through. We've got an overview of the series, which I'll quickly give you a rundown of. We've got some exciting policy recommendations that have come out of this report, the evidence, as well as some fantastic case studies, which I'm excited for you all to hear if you haven't read about them in this report so far. We've then got some end words and reflections from Dr. Megan Wood, who is our one of the people who has overviewed the series. So really exciting webinar today. So as I said, we've got a jam-packed agenda, so let's get stuck in. First, I thought it'd be really helpful to provide you with a bit of an overview of the series and how we got to where we are today. So back in September 2023, Dr. Megan Wood and Professor Mark Williams were commissioned by the Child of the North APPG to write a report about challenges that the children in England face, particularly the children in the north of England. Now, this report moved away from the idea of it's all grim up north, which unfortunately is how many media outlets position the great work that we do here. This report painted a positive picture of all the great work that researchers, practitioners, service providers, schools, community settings, all of the work that they are doing in the north of England to create a fairer future for all children and young people, regardless of their geography or their circumstance. And this was consequently well received by the press and policymakers. And this is so much so that it sparked the idea for a new report series, an ongoing endeavour over the course of 2024. Now, this was a partnership between the Child of the North and the Centre for Young Lives, which is a think tank led by Anne Longfield, the former Children's Commissioner. And this report series sent out evidence-based recommendations for the new government. These reports have been produced in collaboration with the N8, so the 8 most research-intensive universities in the North of England, plus their partnered universities, so the N8 plus. As such, each report is led by researchers from different universities. So we've had reports published by the University of Leeds, Lancaster University, the University of York, and all others that you can see on the screen here. So it's a very exciting piece of work. And these are some of the reports that have been released so far. So we've had kind of hard-hitting topics which have been highlighted by many academics, practitioners, service providers across the country of being of huge importance to young people right now. So poverty, mental health, how we can better use schools as hubs, the SEND crisis, oral health, etc. But we are here to talk today about our most current report, an evidence-based approach to creating a culture of inclusive opportunity through arts and creativity. So without much further ado, I will get us started. Okay, team, bear with me a second. I've just had some feedback that you cannot hear the audio here. So let me just fix that issue and I will get that sorted ASAP.
Hello everyone, my name is Simon James and I'm a professor in the Department of English Studies at Durham University, and it's been my honour to lead as executive editor on the newest report for Child of the North, an evidence-based approach to creating a culture of inclusive opportunity through arts and creativity. So our work builds here on the excellent earlier report by Child of the North on using schools as a way of addressing child poverty, but our focus is on the arts and creativity in schools, both thinking about making access to arts and to teaching for creativity more equal for every child in the north of England and across the country, and also trying to evaluate the good of teaching young people to be creative and to think more creatively. We know, and I think this is something that we know even more after the pandemic too, that the expressive arts in particular and teaching for creativity more broadly are good for children. They're good for children's well-being, they're good for children and young people's school attendance, but we believe in this report too that access to the arts is a good in itself, that every child should be able to have a creative childhood, should be able to hear and to play music, to make, to play, to imagine. This is not a nice to have in our call on the education system. We don't think this is an added extra or something that might be added once other targets and goals are met in education. This for us is an issue of social justice. In this report, we use the definitions of creativity, creative thinking, and teaching for creativity that were framed in the Durham Commission in 2019, that was commissioned by Arts Council England, and these definitions have been widely used and drawn on since. That we think of creativity simply as the capacity to imagine, conceive, express, or make something that was not there before. And we draw on the research around what's called little c creativity, that everyone is or can be creative, that there's no such thing as a creative person or a non-creative person. Everyone uses creativity. It's the capacity that we draw on in everyday problem solving, as well as the big C creativity of an Einstein or a Mozart or a great artist. It's therefore the case that every child can have their creativity stimulated through their learning in and out of schools, and every subject can be used to teach young children to be creative. The arts have a particular role in stimulating young people's creativity, as we discuss, but it's the sciences, the social sciences, the humanities. These are also greatly creative subjects as well too. That the physicists that work at my university are tremendously creative people in using their skill to problem solve in imagining galaxies. The great science teaching in primary schools and in secondary schools is teaching for creativity as well. And creativity is of great use in what children go on to do after they leave school, after their education is complete. We know that the fastest growing sector of the economy is the creative industries, and there's data in our report about how supporting young people to be creative in their education helps them in their employment and in their jobs and in their lives after they leave school. So what then is the problem that we're looking to address? Well, the difficulty is, of course, that access to the expressive arts and to teaching for creativity in childhood is not equally spread, that young people from more affluent backgrounds or are educated in the fee-paying sector are more likely to have access to good quality arts learning and cultural and enrichment experiences through their schools and through their families. For children in more deprived areas, many of them the first time that they will set foot inside a theatre or a museum or an art gallery will be when their school takes them. And we know, of course, that in the present conditions, these kinds of opportunities are under threat, that local authorities are forced to spend less on culture, that schools are hard pressed, there are more and more demands upon their budgets, and that cultural institutions and cultural educators are scrabbling for the same dwindling pots of money. These kinds of life experiences in childhood are incredibly important. Now, it's not the case that socioeconomic background and experience of arts and culture exactly correlate, because we found many case studies of institutions and individuals delivering incredible expressive arts and teaching for creativity in the most severe or challenging circumstances, but it can be a geographical lottery, that if you have Mima or Theatre Hullabaloo on your doorstep, then you have incredible people and brilliant institutions looking after the cultural and creative education of your child. But you might be a few postcodes away, and you don't have such an incredible resource on your doorstep. It's really important that children have access to the arts and to creativity, and I hope that you all enjoy hearing about the evidence and the recommendations and some of the brilliant case studies that we've located in our report.
Fantastic section there by our lead author, Simon James, saying how about the access to arts and creativity can unfortunately be a bit of a postcode lottery. So providing young people with these activities is really important. Next, we have Gavin Davenport, who will be hopefully coming through your systems now.
My name is Gavin Davenport. I'm a lecturer in primary education at Edge Hill University in Lancashire, one of the largest providers of teacher education in the country. I've been a teacher for almost 20 years, working in primary mainstream schools and alternative provision in Yorkshire, Lancashire and Merseyside. During my teaching career, I've been privileged to work in school leadership roles alongside a number of external creative partners, such as Liverpool Philharmonic, Creative Partnerships, English Folk Dance and Song Society, National Maritime Museum, and many more, as well as visiting practitioners coming into school from across many art forms. Alongside teaching, I've enjoyed a parallel career as a specialist coordinator and project manager of education initiatives with a host of cultural institutions across England. And time again, I've seen these fantastic moments of engagement from young people and families, an incredible, enriching joy which remains long after the initial activity. So I would like to speak to you today about the policy recommendations from the Child of the North and Creativity Report. Through purposeful action, we can reduce childhood inequalities, we can enhance future health, well-being and social outcomes. At all phases of education, from early years through the formative years of primary and into secondary, these opportunities are more than extracurricular enrichment, and they're central to the development of diverse perspectives, critical thinking, and the appreciation of a broader world of opportunity. So these three evidence-based policy recommendations, taken together, aim to close the opportunity gaps for equitable access to creative expression and provide young people from all backgrounds with the awareness of the validity and value of creativity and creative careers. So firstly, we call on the government to uphold its manifesto pledge to support vocational and creative subjects in schools. We also ask that school inspection respect the importance of arts and creativity for attainment, inclusion and thriving. We ask that creativity and the arts be returned to their place at the heart of primary education, and that every child in a primary school is able to paint, draw, sing and dance, make music, play and be creative. Teachers and those training to be teachers should be empowered with specialist support, training, and the granting of time, freedom and resources to make this every child's reality. Teaching for creativity should be embedded within a reformed curriculum. Though we're aware that this requires careful planning, it has the potential to unlock the kind of critical thinking and have a profound impact on later experience of expressive arts. Incorporating creative approaches and nurturing these across disciplines increases engagement, it makes a curriculum culturally relevant, and shows pupils the real-world application of subjects with the effect of enhancing educational outcomes. Secondly, we recommend the allocation of specific funding across the school age range to develop the existing primary school workforce and invest in the next generation of teachers, ensuring staff at all phases have the skills and confidence to provide parity in quality and esteem for arts subjects. This could be done through a number of funding mechanisms: an arts premium fund, an increase in the early years premium, funding designed to develop these foundational skills of creativity throughout the primary years and on into later education. And alongside this, we recommend building in national structured opportunities for enrichment: arts, culture, heritage, drama, storytelling, opportunities in after school and holiday programs so that these can become the norm rather than the exception. Appropriate resources and training which enable cultural engagement and empowers teachers to recognise, signpost and celebrate pupils' creative potential should also be provided. We ask for targeted cultural activities funding to support these endeavours and to address inequalities beyond the limits of the traditional school day. This could be done via a dedicated cultural enrichment fund, enabling this type of extended offer and supporting a range of local and national cultural partnerships. So thirdly, we ask that we enrich education by linking with regional and national cultural institutions. And if cultural institutions are enabled to make these kind of partnerships, the evidence indicates significant impacts for children and young people, broadening horizons, providing meaningful opportunities, and embedding the critical thinking and creative skills that both drive a 21st century economy and contribute to a range of improved personal and social outcomes. These partnerships also offer tremendous potential for inclusion and engagement for young people and families, some of whom may experience barriers to engagement with traditional schooling. It enables the representation of those from backgrounds currently underrepresented in the creative sector, and indeed expanding access to cultural institutions is crucial to boost inclusivity and close opportunity gaps. Enabling cultural institutions to reach out to schools and funding or subsidising these activities is one mechanism that would begin to recognise the potential of working together. Removing the barriers to schools visiting and engaging with outside organisations is key. And though this happens to some extent at present, it's incredibly unequal. It's worth considering that pupils in London have effectively universal free public transport to world-class cultural institutions, while those in Liverpool must find around £400 a class to travel via coach, even to a free museum. So prioritising cultural access for disadvantaged areas is one way to begin closing this gap. All pupils are entitled to these life-changing experiences. My name is...
And a fantastic contribution from Gavin Davenport there, thinking about the importance of creativity and what policy makers could be doing better to ensure that all young people are able to thrive. Our next session is by Lynn Newton.
I have been involved in research into creativity and education for a while. I was delighted to contribute in a small way to this Child of the North report, which highlights the interrelated nature of creativity, culture, and the arts. In this section of the webinar, I will highlight some key points from research that formed the evidence base for the report, focusing particularly on creativity and education. In their foreword, Anne Longfield and Camilla Kingdon said, "We need to be bold in our ambition to develop a truly inclusive education and support creativity across all schools for all children and young people in all subjects." And Lisa Nandy stated that a complete education is a creative education. Creativity is not a 20th century invention. Human creativity goes back at least 40,000 years. Early human beings were creative problem solvers. They had to be to survive. Developing abilities in speech and communication led to an explosion in creativity, problem solving and invention, as well as storytelling, personal adornment, artifacts and art. Creative thinking resulted in today's culturally rich and varied world. Creativity is seen as thought and action with the intention of producing something that is new, novel, or original, appropriate or fit for purpose, and somehow satisfying and aesthetically pleasing. The words most associated with creativity are the arts, using imagination, and being innovative. Today, creativity is widely valued for a number of reasons. First, creativity for and within groups, communities, and societies nurtures understanding and encourages learning from each other, thus fostering cultural growth. Political and economic drivers recognise the need for creative workforces, now more than ever needed with robots and AI doing more and more of the mundane tasks. Creativity affords a degree of personal effectiveness and emotional satisfaction, which can enhance our well-being and make life feel worthwhile. And in England, Ofsted reports indicate that where opportunities for creative thinking are provided, learners are motivated, self-esteem is positive, and classroom behaviour improves. Government initiatives have encouraged teachers not only to teach creatively, but also to help their students to be creative thinkers. But teaching creatively is not the same as teaching for creative thinking. Creative teaching focuses on the teachers and their creative planning for engagement. Most teachers are very good at this, and the children learn and enjoy lessons. But are they doing any creative thinking? Teaching for creative thinking focuses on the learners themselves and the extent to which their creative thinking is being nurtured and developed through the activities and opportunities offered. However, for some teachers, while they value creativity in their classrooms, there are a number of challenges. There are also some myths around creativity that might need to be addressed, and I want to mention a couple of them here. One myth is that younger people cannot be creative, yet even very young children are creative in their play and in their strategies for getting their own way. We often use the term creativity as synonymous with imagination, and young children are very good at using their imaginations. Researchers have pointed to the differences between big C creativity, where something is created which is new to everyone, and little c creativity, which is possible for all of us in generating solutions to problems new to us as individuals, if not to others. So little c creativity is considered something to be encouraged with all children and young people. Research also tells us that many adults hold the view that creativity is only experienced through the arts and that other subjects don't provide opportunity for creative thinking. This is the second myth I want to mention. While arts do have a crucial role in cultivating creativity, creativity is not solely the domain of the arts. Dangers with associating creativity as purely an artistic pursuit, and often an elitist pursuit at that, were noted by researchers and seen to lead to creativity becoming inaccessible for many. This contradicts other research findings which argue creativity is something inherent in us all, an equalizer, and identifiable in all domains of activity. Research also tells us that the arts do make a particular strong contribution to fostering creativity. The value of arts specifically have been noted in that they allow for interpersonal skills to develop, listening, teamwork, and the use of initiative and imagination, and so on. Their value lies in providing children and young people with a different medium for expressing themselves. Essentially, although not the only route, the arts and culture may be the most effective enabler of fostering creativity. However, there is much research evidence around how creativity and subject knowledge can be mutually supportive, especially when combined with multidisciplinary and integrated approaches. STEAM projects and teaching through a social context are two such examples. So we want our students to be creative thinkers, people who are imaginative and have the skills to think differently about possibilities. How do we do this? For teachers, fostering creative thinking is not about passing on the known. It is about encouraging possibility thinking, decision making, risk taking, using imagination and problem solving. It is also about providing time and space to do these things and to support and scaffold when needed. In 2006, UNESCO held a world conference on arts education entitled Building Creative Competencies for the 21st Century. It was global in participants, reach, and message, and the Director General's proclamation that creativity is our hope captured the perceived urgency of the proceedings. If creativity really is our hope for the future, how much further are we now, nearly 20 years later? In England, the picture is mixed. Evidence suggests that this is in part a consequence of educational policy and in part a lack of understanding about creativity and creative thinking. Teachers' views indicate that they see time on arts as a luxury and creativity as yet another thing to add to their load. The risk with this view is that while opportunities for creativity exist outside of formal education, not all children have access to those opportunities due to geography, finance, infrastructure, or perceptions of the value of creativity. Research increasingly points to the need for curriculum adjustment to cultivate creativity and creative thinking within the school environment. Broadening the curriculum to include subjects more traditionally associated with the arts and avoiding early specialisation were noted. As the UNESCO conference concluded, creativity is our hope. This highlights the need for the schools to be supported in seeing how it is possible to weave creativity, arts and culture as golden threads through their curricula without losing quality of provision. This returns us to Lisa Nandy's comment that a complete education is a creative education. Kenneth Moore argued that thinking skills are essential skills for all children. He says a complete education must emphasize thinking skills and enable students to function responsibly and solve problems in ways that are sensitive and caring of others, society, and the world. Isn't that what we want for all of our students? I see here an ingredient for a curriculum for the future that is a thinking curriculum with creativity as a golden thread. Thank you for listening, and thank you all to colleagues who have contributed evidence for the report.
Fantastic outline of the evidence base around creativity in education there. Also, it was really lovely to hear about the importance between the big C and the little c creativity, especially when it comes to young people expressing themselves. Now, next we have Nathan Jones, who will speak to us about the Morecambe Bay curriculum.
Lecturer in Fine Art here at Lancaster University, and I'm going to introduce you to my colleague Beth, who's responsible for the Morecambe Bay curriculum.
Hi, I'm Beth Garrett and my current role is lecturer in the Morecambe Bay curriculum. I am situated in educational research, but my day-to-day role is looking at the evaluation and the implementation of the Morecambe Bay curriculum, which is a community-based project supported by our 4 partners. So our focus here is all about place-based learning, and we have chosen this as a way of embedding themes of sustainability, environment and hope into the everyday education practices around our bay. And the aim is to encourage children and young people to really become the change makers that our planet needs. And our movement is driven by educators. They came together following the announcement that Eden Project was going to be coming to Morecambe, and they were really inspired by this and wanted to look at how they could use their local environment and the places in which they live to enhance the environmental and sustainability education of pupils all around the bay. And they continue to take key decisions in our movement. And our aim really is to take the themes of sustainability in place and to put them into everyday teaching practice, because we recognise that currently there aren't that many opportunities to be able to do this. So we wanted to open this out to all subjects and all age phases. So when the MBC first started, which was back in 2019, there were lots of really passionate teachers who all had different ideas about projects to do. So you can see a couple of those on this slide. So you can see we've got children who are growing things, looking at food futures. And in the bottom left-hand corner, we've got Eden Bear, which is a storytelling project that's been going on with our early years practitioners. And pupils came together as part of these projects to enhance their education. But at this point, there was lots of little projects and it wasn't really all connected up. So we developed a model which brought together our community to decide what are the key aims that we want from Morecambe Bay curriculum. We decided that our focus was on children and young people around the Bay, which is at the heart of the model, but that we were going to do this by looking at how we as a group and as a community could support educators, support those teachers to be able to embed place and environment throughout their day-to-day practice. And teachers also recognised 3 other key themes that were really important as part of their aims. They wanted to provide skills for the local economy and for green jobs of the future. They wanted to develop pride of place within the people and community. And they wanted to look at how education for sustainability could actually help to support the mental and physical health of our children and young people. And the project that we're going to talk specifically about today is our curriculum co-design project. So we wanted to design some materials that could be used right the way through from early years to further education. And our approach to doing this was to bring together academics from Lancaster University who had research specialisms in themes related to environment or place-based learning, and connect them with local teachers from across all those different age phases. The assumption being that together they could share their knowledge and be able to devise innovative curriculum resources, which could then be used across a whole range of contexts. And the outcome of this was a set of 16 resources, which are all underpinned by our teaching philosophy, which is the head, heart and hands framework. So we recognise that we are in a knowledge-rich national curriculum at the moment. So developing that knowledge of the teachers was really important to give them the confidence to be able to apply these topics. And that's where the academics came in with their subject-specific knowledge. But equally, as well as knowledge, we wanted to be able to think about skills. So the hands elements of the model, developing that creative thinking and problem solving skills. And perhaps the most important, developing that positive relationship with place and a love for the Bay, so they would feel that they could care for their local environment. And I'll pass you over to Nathan.
Yes, so that was at the point at which I came in, and I'm a teacher and a thinker in contemporary art, and I was really inspired by this idea of the head, heart and hands, and I really think that contemporary art specifically and the modes of practice that artists have got today really lend themselves to thinking in this kind of joined up way about the environment and how we are entangled in it. And we've summarized this on this slide about being about a more than human perspective, which is perhaps best captured by the thinker Bruno Latour, who says he thinks of the gallery as a mode of planetary observatory. And that was like the idea that we took to the primary and early years teachers to think about how they might think about art as being a way of looking and connecting to everything that the children see around them. So we showed them contemporary art practices that allow people to see like a forest or see like an animal, or practices which focus on modes of kind of material interaction with the environment, whether that's by actually moulding material or performing within the environment like an animal, and sort of trying to understand what it is to be more than human. And we also were able to show teachers the kind of art that our students are making and the tools that they were using, and teachers were really particularly inspired by the tools that our student Stephen Saunders was using. He was using a macro lens to see the sand and the movement of the sand very close up. And so from this, we developed a set of ideas for tutors could use the tools, the macro lens for their iPads that they already had in the classroom, and also thinking about the performance and kind of event and interaction-based modes of contemporary art to blur the boundary really between the kinds of play they were doing on the beach or in their playground and the kinds of things that contemporary art and expressive art can be in the class. So you can see here some slides of ideas we were thinking about play, about integrating myth into the classroom, about understanding the creative practices of animals in the environment on Walney Island, where the school we were was based, and how that resulted in a set of ideas that are art, but maybe beyond the more conventional ideas of art that already existed in the classroom, and allowed them to think in a more playful and expansive way. And so this resulted in us contributing to these resources, which Beth will just tell you about at the end of this talk now.
So we ended up with 16 resources, which spanned the creative arts, obviously, as we've just heard about, but also the sciences and humanities. And they went from early years through primary, secondary and further education. And each resource has specialist knowledge, which drew upon the academics' research. It links to national curriculum expectations. And as you can see here, there were a whole range of different lesson plans and ideas that underpin each of these. So this was Nathan's resource that he looked at for early years, expressive arts and design. And then the next one was the primary arts one, which looked at the birds of Morecambe Bay. And you can see some examples of the children's sculptures that they did there. So thank you very much for taking the time to listen to this and for us to be able to share this fantastic work.
A wonderful example of things that local places are doing to make the situation better for children and young people. Fantastic case study there. Another case study coming up from Paige Davis.
Hello, my name is Paige Davis, and I am a developmental psychologist and psychopathologist, and I research and teach at the University of Leeds. My research interests have always been in imaginary companions or imaginary friends and play. And when I had my first son, I looked more into transition to parenthood because it really interested me. So when I became Theatre Hullabaloo's industry partner, looking at programs for new parents and their children on play and creativity really fit. So I'm going to talk about my case study on Theatre Hullabaloo's imagination and creative play interventions. And this was case study number 3. I think that this case study really embodies one of those 7 principles in the report, which was establishing universities as the research and development departments for the local public services. Just to give you an idea, my relationship with Theatre Hullabaloo began as my industry partner almost 5 years ago, and I evaluated the first iteration of Play on Prescription, and in that one we decided to change its name to Let's Play because of some consultations with parents. I then went on to get a British Academy Innovation Fellowship, which enabled Theatre Hullabaloo and I to investigate this program way deeper. And now I'm working on an Arts Council bid, which embeds academic research and development into the theatre itself and their programs. So although this case study is really only 1 page, it's really the result of hours and hours and years of investigation into these interventions. And I'm here actually at the Theatre Hullabaloo to give you an idea of their creative play space. And I'm going to give you a little bit of a show of what's in the space. And in the next slide, I'll be talking about the different interventions. And now I'll talk about the actual case study. And these are the two interventions that I talked about in the case study, and they both do this good job of combining the arts practice that the Theater Hullabaloo practices and creative play. And what the Hullabaloo are offering are this suite of early years creative programs, and they both support children and the wider family, so parents and carers. Let's Play, or Play on Prescription, is a socially prescribed creative play program for 0 to 2-year-olds and their carers or parents. And what social prescription does is it links the most vulnerable families to programs within the community, and so that's what Let's Play is. It's just this child-led, semi-structured, tailored to the chemistry of the group, socially prescribed program with creative music, and this is aimed really to support this key transition to parenthood for parents. The way that the referral process works is it's curated in a hosted space. You know, we have different people from all over the community able to refer, and parents and caregivers can also refer in if they have low confidence. So the program itself, like I said, is in a hosted space. It's peer support, and it's designed to boost language, play, all of these different things in children, and confidence and social support in carers. So Theater Hullabaloo believes that the creativity offers this unique way for parents to engage in those different activities with their infants. And so that's what Let's Play is. Now, the second thing that I talked about in the case study was Place to Play, and this is, as I showed you, the beautiful play space this is within the Hullabaloo itself. This is thought to bring creativity into the heart of the community through bringing it to family hubs. And so again, these play spaces are curated by different artists. They foster imagination, they foster creativity, and in terms of the family hubs, these same exact play spaces are brought into the family hubs and delivered alongside these public health and family services, where they're positioning creativity as a support which is available to the community. And so this replication hopefully is bringing people into the hubs that are not just coming for the health support. So for this slide, I thought that I'd bring you up to date with what we've done since the case study and some of the actual evidence that we are creating, because I think it's really important to continually address these different programs, to have ongoing research and development. So the first peer-reviewed paper evidence that we have is a paper that came out in 2024. I looked at that. This is from looking at that original first cohort of Play on Prescription, and I found through a bunch of different ways that the trust and calm that parents felt, that really promoted the delivery of practical parenting knowledge in these creative play intervention, I guess, sessions, not interventions. And so that feeling of non-judgment continually came across in the interviews that I gave. In terms of a very recent publication, we were just accepted, and it's just been published in Biomed Central Psychology, that the postnatal depression scores of our, I think it was second, third, and fourth cohorts of the plan prescription, they significantly lowered. So postnatal depression scores significantly lowered, and parents found this social opportunity in the plan prescription sessions. So I will give links to those two publications if you're interested. And then for the place to play, we have been doing a lot of what we call peer, or not peer, patient and public involvement, where we're doing consultations with staff and parents and any of the stakeholders with place to play. And we've found that hubs are able to access families that they might not otherwise be able to access. And we think that this, and they think that this leads to other knock-on health and wellness effects for attendance in that. So I am hoping that we will be able to work more with the place to play and get some evidence there as well. I've now turned on the music, and I just wanted to say thank you for listening to this case study. These are all of the partners that have helped make it possible.
Another fantastic innovative approach there by Theatre Hullabaloo, and it's so exciting to even get a bit of a taster of what they do as well, with a mini tour and kind of some of the signs showing through as well. So thank you for that. Next we have Penny Hay.
Hello everyone, I'm Penny Hay, Professor of Imagination at CfYL University. I'm passionate about the potential for the arts, imagination and creativity to be transformative in our lives. Our project Forest of Imagination offers an alternative creative approach to learning, rewilding education in spaces of possibility. Alongside artists and creative professionals, we are researching experimental sites for pedagogical innovation that focus on nature connection and our collective imagination. Forest of Imagination is a pop-up contemporary arts and architecture event embedding creative learning that reimagines public spaces in the city and invites everyone to explore their own imagination and creativity, highlighting the power of nature and the arts to inspire. To quote Andrew Grant, "Forest is the home of imagination. Imagination is everyone." We invite the whole community to have a conversation about the importance of nature, the arts and imagination in all our lives. Each year we transform indoor and outdoor spaces into dynamic environments inspired by nature. Focusing on children and young people's creative and critical thinking, we provide a unique platform where young minds collaborate with professional artists, enabling them to explore and develop their artistic potential. Everyone is an artist. We invite children to engage with creativity, experiment and take risks in a supportive environment alongside adults as companions in learning. We combine action research with direct engagement, creating a cultural ecosystem that supports students, educators and creative professionals, transforming learning capacity and well-being. Forest of Imagination is designed to inspire action in response to the climate emergency. By involving children, local communities and artists, we create a dynamic, collaborative and relational experience that fosters creative expression and social action. Forest of Imagination embodies a philosophy of creative student-centered learning. Children are immersed in creative learning guided by artists and educators, encouraging co-inquiry, collaboration and expression in 100 languages. Together we co-design an environment where imagination, creative thinking and emotional resilience can flourish, exemplifying how the arts can be a vehicle for not only artistic expression, but also for social change, personal growth and global awareness. We need to invite immersive sensorial learning that prioritises sense-making and meaning-making for children to express themselves in the world with agency and empowerment. We invite children into imaginative environments to think on behalf of nature, as nature, Our approach is characterised by transdisciplinary collaboration, nature-inspired learning, interactive and experiential spaces, an experiential approach as an active, reflective and personalised learning environment that connects students with real-world experiences, emphasises collaboration and nurtures both cognitive and emotional development. The forest is inclusive and accessible. Everyone is welcome. Forest of Imagination redefines arts education by integrating art with nature and interactive experiences, creating a playful and transformational learning environment. Learning is like a forest. Everything is connected. Learning is a creative ecology of transdisciplinary connections and relationships. Learning is imaginative and creative, individual, collaborative. Learning is beautiful. Children have a powerful drive to explore, to hypothesize, to make connections and communicate ideas. Children are learning in and with the world, wondering, wandering, questioning, using their intuition and critical thinking to express their hopes and dreams. Play, nature, creativity, community and belonging are at the heart of the forest. I wish for an education system that values curiosity and joy in learning, opening minds through empathy, sensitivity and compassion, prioritising children's sense of well-being and awareness of themselves as creative learners who achieve a sense of self-worth. Every child should have access to an arts-rich and creative education. This is a social justice issue. Thank you for listening.
That was another really great example of a wonderful case study there. I particularly like the way Penny mentioned that everybody is welcome in these spaces and everybody is an artist. Lastly, but definitely not least, we have Megan Wood, who will give us the end word.
Hi, my name is Dr. Megan Wood and I'm a postdoctoral research fellow at the University of Leeds. I've had the immense privilege to lead on this report series with the Child of the North and the Centre for Young Lives, acting as series editor with my colleagues Professor Mark Williams and Dr. Lydia Gunning. At the end of 2023, we embarked on this ambitious journey to release 12 reports, roughly one each month, covering 12 unique topics. Each of these landmark reports have shone a light on the challenges, disparities and opportunities shaping the lives of children and young people across the UK. We've had the incredible privilege of working alongside experts, practitioners and communities from across the country, providing an example of just what can be achieved when we work collaboratively. What these reports show is stark. Despite the immense potential of our children, structural inequalities, geographic disparities and policy failures are holding too many of them back. From poverty and poor mental health to the lack of support for children with special educational needs, these inequities blight the lives of far too many young people, especially in the north. But if there's one irrefutable truth we've learned, it's this. The future of our country depends on putting children first, and this is not just the responsibility of government, schools or healthcare, it's a collective responsibility. If we want to shift the dial for our most vulnerable children, we all have to roll up our sleeves and work together. Now, while these reports have surfaced some horrendous statistics, they were never intended to paint such a bleak picture. Quite the opposite, in fact. Across this series, we've uncovered extraordinary stories of hope, innovative programmes and groundbreaking initiatives already transforming young lives. We've laid out clear, evidence-based recommendations that show what can be done right now, even in a time of financial pressure, to give children and young people the opportunities that they deserve. We've quoted Hans Rosling throughout in this latest report. Things are bad, but better. That captures our message perfectly. Yes, there are significant challenges, but there's also been tremendous progress. We need to amplify the good work that's already happening in every corner of the country and ensure it's connected, coordinated and properly supported. The principles we've championed, putting children first, addressing inequity, adopting place-based approaches, are more than just aspirations. They're evidence-based strategies that work. And if we collaborate across sectors, if we draw on the expertise of our universities and public services, we can make opportunity not a privilege for a few, but a right for every child. It seems that we are not the only ones who believe we should be putting our children and young people back on the agenda. People have been listening and responding, largely thanks to the huge media attention that we've gained across this series. For example, these reports have been the front page of the Yorkshire Post, been talked about on ITV News, discussed on LBC Radio, had a mention on Good Morning Britain, and much more. We presented our findings at Parliamentary Evidence Week in Westminster, handing out physical copies directly to government ministers and MPs, ensuring that the voices of children and young people are heard at the very highest of levels. Our latest report has even been mentioned in reports of Ed Sheeran and Harry Styles, urging the government to protect music education in school. It's fitting that our final report focused on culture, creativity and opportunity. Culture isn't just a reflection of who we are, it's a catalyst of who we can become. Creativity has the power to transform individuals and entire communities. For children in the North and elsewhere, access to cultural and creative opportunities isn't a luxury, it's a necessity. It builds resilience, supports mental health and strengthens social cohesion. Culture and creativity are essential tools for building brighter futures. Throughout this series, we've seen the power of partnership work in schools, local authorities, public services, families and young people themselves working together to make change happen. It's convinced us more than ever that this kind of collaboration really is the key to transforming lives, both now and for generations to come. Now we're turning our attention to our 2025 campaign and its implementation. We have the blueprint and it's now time to turn this vision into reality. Together we can build a country that works for all children and young people, regardless of their background, geography or circumstance. There's no greater investment than in our children. They are our future and they deserve nothing less. I'm so proud to have been working on this report series over the past 15 months and I'm really excited of what's to come for the future. Thanks.
A wonderful summary by Megan there. All that's left to say is thank you so much for your attendance. I realise that we've run over a little bit today due to the technical difficulties at the start, and we really appreciate you sticking with us. If you want to listen back to the recording, it will be on the Centre for Applied Education Research's YouTube channel, which is Care Bradford, over the next few days. I can't currently see any questions in the chat, but please feel free to get in contact with us if you do have any questions at any point. We'll either be able to answer your questions at Care directly, or we will be able to forward you to the people who may have been on this call today, who are the experts in these issues. But again, thank you so much for your attendance, and please do read the report. Thank you.